Welcome to District 45 webinar on the Accredited Speaker Program presented by Joe Grondin. Advanced Toastmaster Gold, Advanced Leader Bronze, Accredited Speaker. I'm your moderator, Jeff Hebert, District 45 Program Quality Director for 2017 to 2018. This webinar is provided to our members to teach you about the Toastmasters International Accredited Speaker Program. The Accredited Speaker Program is designed for professional speakers who combine expert knowledge in a particular subject with mastery of the spoken word, making them sought-after experts in their respective fields. So our guest today is Joe Grondin. Joe has been a Toastmaster for 15 years. During that time, he's completed the Advanced Toastmaster Gold, Advanced Leader Bronze. He's been a World Championship of Public Speaking finalist 2 times. For those who don't really grasp that, that means he won at the district and then passed the first round, elimination round at the international level. And of course, he's become an accredited speaker. And currently, Joe is the Area 3 Director in New Brunswick. But these are just Joe's Toastmasters credentials. Joe has a master's degree in teaching and administration. He has taught every level from kindergarten all the way through 12th grade, as well as at-risk youth. I think that's a pretty important Freudian slip there, Joe. You might want to analyze me. Joe has been a principal. He's an author, a keynote speaker, a speech coach, and an all-around excellent Toastmaster. So Joe Grondin, let's get this interview started. Can you tell us what exactly is the Accredited Speaker Program?
Well, thank you, Jeff. The Accredited Speaker Program in Toastmasters is a connection between getting a designation and accredited speaker to the professional world of speaking. It's a wonderful program. It's a different preparation to get the designation. And I think Toastmasters has done a fantastic job of trying to make that connection to the professional world. If you're at all interested in being a professional speaker, this is an avenue in Toastmasters to allow you to hone that skill and to show a judging panel, a Toastmaster audience, what you actually do when you speak professionally, when you're a paid speaker. I stumbled upon this as I was going through the Toastmaster program, and I thought, wow, this would be a wonderful opportunity to learn more about the professional world, and I'm speaking now in the professional world, and I thought this would be a great fit for me at this time.
Okay, I'm going to ask our audience, the folks on the line, who has some experience or knows about the Accredited Speaker Program. Just answer, I know, or it's completely new to me.
I know.
Of course, Mark knows. So I know a little bit. Sharon Joseph is completely new. Joe, I think you may have. Some... Do you have a speaker as well as your mic?
Who, me?
Yeah, this echo that I'm. Do you hear my echo?
Not very much, no.
Wow, I hear it very clearly. Anyone else
hear it?
Do you want me
to back off from the computer?
I hear the echo too.
Yeah, me as well. Somebody's got you on speaker.
Okay, well, Trevor knows a little. Ileana is new to this concept. So at this point, it seems we have maybe a 50-50 mix of folks. That's much better. A 50-50 mix of folks that have some knowledge of accredited speaker and some who don't. So Joe, why don't you tell us, what is the difference between the Accredited Speaker Program and programs that we're familiar with, like the Competent Communicator?
Well, there's actually a connection between the Competent Communicator and the programs that we do within the program of speaking, because I think Toastmaster does a great job in supplying us with the tools of going outside of Toastmasters. It's a training ground. And Toastmasters, within the CC manuals, the CL manuals, whatever, whenever you stand up in front of an audience, that is the training ground for getting your accredited speaker, because those are the tools. The trick is taking those tools and being able to go outside of Toastmasters and speak professionally. Toastmasters has taken, yes, go ahead, Jeff.
Oh, I was just going to say that I know exactly what you're talking about. That's actually a bit of a criticism of the Toastmasters program. It's very good at getting people to be fairly comfortable with their speaking. But when you get to it's sort of like the Peter principle, right? Once you get to a level of competence, the program itself, our program generally does not push people towards professional speaking.
No, I totally agree with you. But the accredited speaker branches, that bridges towards that. That's the bridge. And I think this is why I'm a big fan of the accredited speaker, because even the process of the application, the process of standing in front of an audience and in front of judges to judge, not necessarily on the criteria like a world championship. They judge you according to, can this speaker earn a living from doing what we just saw on stage? And that's the major difference between making that transition from the program of Toastmasters International, taking the tools, and then presenting what you would normally present professionally. Now, I know there's some fellow Toastmasters out there that actually present outside of Toastmasters. So there's the bridge.
Mm-hmm. Right. I see that Toastmasters, I just recently read an article on LinkedIn about, I guess, Toastmasters, the standard program, the CC, the Advanced Communicator program, emphasizes delivery. Even though in our scoring, content is 50% of the value, it truly is about how well you deliver the content. So is
and that's
yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, Jeff. Go ahead, Jeff.
Oh, this is for you. How do you respond to that?
Well, I think that you're absolutely right. It trains us to deliver a speech. I think it also encourages us, because the first 4 speeches in the CC manual focuses on that content. And I think that is something we have to be conscious of as speakers, because we want the audience to leave with something. Speakers in general want to help others. And what is that content? How deep can we get into the content? Toastmasters is very good about the delivery end of things, and I think once we go through those first 4 speeches in the Confident Communicator are probably more concentrated on content. And I think as you make the transition from the program of Toastmasters International to the professional world, the focus has to be, okay, what is the content? How strong is that content? And does it relate to the audience and what they can take away? And that's where I think that bridge, that's part of that bridge between the Toastmaster program and the professional speaking arena.
Okay, well, very good. So you've talked quite a bit about this, the process, the application process. You keep touching on it. So can you walk us through what's involved with the actual application?
Oh yes, and it's an educational process for sure. I'm astounded. I mean, it took about 6 months to put everything together. One of the areas that tend to hold back an application is the criteria. You have to have 25 speaking engagements outside of Toastmasters in the last 3 years. 15 of them have to be paid speaking engagements. So that process of putting together those outside presentations, that's a task in itself. There's a second part of the application where you have to have 5 reference letters, which the template is through Toastmasters International. It's a 1-pager that you send to people who have hired you to speak. They fill out the reference, send it into Toastmasters International. So you have to have 5 of those. And the most important part of the application, I think, is the video. You have to have a video of you speaking to an audience of more than 20 members outside of Toastmasters International, and you cannot edit the video, you cannot do anything. It has to be raw video, from the presentation, and it has to be high quality audio, and it has to be high quality video. And the quality of the video is crucial, because I have spoken to many people who applied, and some of the feedback that came back to them was that the video wasn't of high quality, so they could not accept them to go to level 2. I'm just talking about level 1 in the process. Speaking engagements, the letters of reference, and the video. You send that in to Toastmasters International by the end of January. Then Toastmasters International sends you an email saying, we have your application, it's complete. The judges are going to judge your video, and you will get to know by May whether you're accepted to come and speak at the convention. And if you speak at the convention, you have 15 to 20 minutes to stand in front of a judging panel and an excess of 1,000 people to deliver what you would deliver professionally. And if the judges feel that it's a pass or fail, if they pass you, then you have your accredited speaker. If you fail, then you're allowed to come back the next 2 years at the convention and present again and try it again to pass. If you don't pass within 3 tries, you have to go back to level 1 and do the whole process over again.
Okay, just so for summary, make sure I've got all the pieces. The level 1 includes basically demonstrating your ability to be hired and to do presentations. You have to have some sort of contracts or evidence that you've actually delivered these speeches, as well as a video that the judges will assess. Okay, and then the second part is at the international convention, where you actually deliver a version of your speech, of your presentation.
Yes.
Okay, so do the judges use the same criteria for both of these, you know, for evaluating the video and for evaluating the live presentation?
Yes, they do. And actually, there's a judging form.
Aha.
There's a judging form that, there's a judging form that anybody can access through Toastmasters International. And if you type in Toastmasters accredited speaker judging form, it will come up.
I happened to have done that. So if anyone's looking at your screen, if you go to toastmasters.org under membership, you can click on membership and go down to accredited speaker, and that will bring up this page with the judge's guide. Isn't that neat?
It's interesting in the judge's guide because they'll judge you on 3 categories. They'll judge you on language, content, and delivery.
Huh, that
and
sounds familiar.
They fully explain what they're looking for. So if you're serious about the accredited speaker program, it's good to study this particular guide. I met a fellow Toastmaster at the convention in Vancouver and asked if there was a judging form, and I informed him that there was. And if you're really, it's the same thing. It's not the same judging criteria as a speech contest. It's a judging form that's tailor-made to professional speaking.
Mm-hmm. So I see content, delivery, and language. It looks very much like, you know, our boy, why am I drawing a blank? International speech contest.
Yeah. But it's interesting when you go through the judging form. There's a bit of a difference in the evaluation, and when you scroll down to the second sheet, there's an error. There's a pass or fail, and the pass mark is 80. And if you make 80 and above, according to the judges, then you pass. If you make below 80, then you don't pass. And what's interesting with the process, even after level 1. Toastmasters International will send you from the judging panel their feedback, evaluation.
Oh,
if
right.
And it doesn't matter whether you get accepted or not. Even after I received my accredited speaker, they sent me another evaluation with things that could be tweaked in the presentation. So the learning experience was as Mark would say, exponential. It was phenomenal. Yeah, it was phenomenal. And I noticed that Dave Cormier put a comment in. It said, you know, what is considered a paid presentation?
Good question.
Anything? Yeah, it's a very good question. Anything like if you get paid $50 to present up to thousands of dollars, there's really no limit on, as long as you get paid for the presentation. whether how small or how large? And that's a very good question. And I think some people say, well, I only get paid $50 or $100 for a speaking engagement. Well, that counts as one of the 15.
Yeah, I feel like that's cheating because I get paid like $20 for various public service things that I do.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily consider those paid speeches, but
it was interesting. I had a conversation with another person who applied to the accredited speaker program, and they sat down with, and she got some feedback from some people, and it's great to have a mentor who's gone through the process. And she did say that one mentor alluded to the fact that maybe the paid speaking engagements weren't quite enough, because they want to know if you can make a living from what you're doing.
Right.
And being paid $50 for a presentation as opposed to $2,000 for a presentation, there's a difference there.
Yeah. I suppose it depends on the market you're in too, but yeah, it does feel like there's a pretty substantial difference.
Yeah.
Okay, so if someone is selected or wants to go about doing this, what kind of topics should he or she speak about?
And that's a great question, because that question came up to me a couple times. And in general, the basic answer and the more concise answer is whatever you speak in the professional world. They're not looking for, per se, a world champion to deliver something, large in 5 to 7 minutes. They're looking for, what do you present in the professional world? One person said to me, well, I'm an engineer and I do a lot of presentations to people. I got a paid speaker for computers. And I said, that's what they're looking for. He said, well, I'm also an inspirational speaker. I said, do you get paid to be an inspirational speaker? He says, yes. Well, then you've got a choice there. Which one do you want to use? Because they basically want you to showcase what you do professionally in the professional speaking world.
Okay, so I pulled up your list of topics, and it looks like you speak about living in harmony with children, about leadership topics, giving yourself permission to take care of yourself. I guess that's what that one is about.
Yeah.
And then how to develop your personal style. Those, to me, seem like 4 completely different types of topics.
And they are. Most of my professional speaking engagements are with educators, living in harmony with their children. And that living in harmony with our children is something that I use quite a bit. The other topics were developed as the need came forward. Toastmasters International has taught me so much, not only within Toastmasters, but outside of Toastmasters, but I owe so much to Toastmasters for the information that I have learned. This developing your signature has been something I've been doing at the district level. And actually, I'm going to New York next week to do the developing your signature workshop with them. And it was something that developed. So now my sort of expertise has expanded towards communication, public speaking. The wellness presentation just came about because conferences gave me a call and said, Joe, we want you to do a wellness presentation and open up our conference with a keynote address. And that's something that I'm a passion. So those topics came up after the educational key, as people needed them, and I started to develop those 4 areas. It also it increases the market. It increased the market on the education, the leadership, wellness, and public speaking, because when people call me to speak, I have meetings coming up and they want to know exactly what I speak about. So I can sit down and talk about those 4 areas as a keynote speaker. So it expands the market.
So expanding the market, I think that's an interesting concept. How has earning the accredited speaker credentials, how has that changed your marketability or the demand for your time?
Well, the one thing that Toastmasters International does, which I totally appreciated, I didn't realize the after effects of getting the designation. They put you on 2 websites for Toastmasters International. One website is a website specifically for districts globally to invite you to speak. On that website, basically within Toastmasters International, districts can invite me to speak. They'll pay my accommodations, they'll pay everything, my flight, my travel, everything. There's just no speaker fee. And I'm fine with that, which is one of the reasons why I wanted to do the accredited speaker, because it's going to allow me to travel and see the world a bit, and they're going to allow me to sell any product that I may have. The other website is for professional speakers. So people will go into that website and see a list of accredited speakers who do this professionally. So if somebody wanted to know what I do professionally, that is a paid speaking engagement. So they would contact me through that website. What the accredited speaker has opened up, I have now 4 districts that have contacted me to travel all over North America to present. And it's getting me more exposure. And what I can do when I get to those areas is contact the education system and say, oh, by the way, I'm coming to your area. My travel, my accommodations are all taken care of. Would you like me to come and do a professional presentation?
Nice. So are you going to do like visit district conferences? Is that how you're going? Or do they have you come and speak at TLIs or other events?
Well, and that's interesting. In New York, it's District 46, and I'm so excited. This is the same district that Mark Brown, the 1995 world champion, is part of. It's a huge district, and they wanted me to come in. Instead of having a fall conference, they have a TLI on Thursday, a TLI Friday, and then they have a TLI for all the leaders in the district. There's about 300 leaders in the morning, and then in the afternoon, they have their speech contest. So they have me basically there on Thursday to Sunday, and then I come back on the Sunday. And they have me speaking, and they want me as the keynote speaker. I told them the topic, developing your signature, and I created something within. They want me to speak for an hour. So I'm their main speaker for that whole conference between Thursday and Saturday. And there's 3 other districts that have contacted me and said, yes, we're interested. We're going to get back to you. And they have conferences coming up after the new year. The other thing that the accredited speaker program has done within my own district is there are people that sort of stood up and took notice, and they are also part of the professional world. And they would say, Joe, can I sit down with you after the new year and talk about being a keynote speaker at our annual conference, which is another organization, another business altogether. So that's the accredited speaker now is starting to blossom into more opportunities for my speaking.
Oh, that's pretty exciting. Man, Joe, I've got more questions than I can possibly think of right now. But one thing you had mentioned, so Toastmasters, when you're on this, is it like a Toastmasters Speakers Bureau where they say, hey, here's a speaker, they pay for your travel? I guess, can you tell me a little bit more about how that exactly works? Tell us a little more in detail how someone would contact you.
Contact me. Well, they can do it through those Toastmaster web. They can go to the accredited speaker section on the Toastmaster website, and you'll be able to see the speakers, a list of all the accredited speakers that are. They can contact me through. You're showing my contact through my website. Yeah. And they can contact me through there, and then I can sort of give them more information about what I do. But they can also contact me through Toastmasters, 2 websites through the accredited speaker for Toastmasters. Contact me through there.
So are those linked from this list of accredited speakers? Is this the one you're talking about?
Yes.
Or that's one of the 2 pages. I'm not familiar with the other one that you talked about. Is it this?
It should be listed in there. If you go to list of the accredited speakers, and you click that.
Oh, look at that. There you are.
Yeah.
Joe Grondin. So here is our favorite District 45 accredited speaker.
I'm the only accredited.
You didn't have to tell anyone that. You didn't have to tell anyone that. All right, fine. Fine. He let the cat out of the bag.
He's our trailblazer.
Okay, so this is how someone would contact you, right? They would read about the things that you've done, and say, wow, I want to learn more. I want to know Joe.
Yeah. And there's you can see it. There's a list of other speakers there that are there, and they contacted me soon after the accredited speaker program was finished. We got our designations, and they said, Joe, these are two websites. You could say, Jeff, it is like a speaker bureau where they see a list of all the speakers and what they speak about, and if you're interested in having them over. I saw it as an opportunity because Toastmasters is global. And I'm looking for ways to give back to Toastmasters because, like I said, I owe so much to this organization. The professional speaking world would not have been a possibility without the tools that Toastmasters has taught me. And the speech contest, everything that I learned through the speech contest and everything I learned through the program and the people I made contact with, because I learned so much from speakers in our own district. We have wonderful speakers. I mean, I can go through a list, Dan Bell, Mark Henkel, Dave Cormier. I can go through a list of all these speakers that I learned from. And if it wasn't for Toastmasters, I don't think this would have been possible at all, because you're right, Jeff, it does help you with the delivery and the content, and then to make the transition over through the accredited speakers. But that's how they can get a hold of me.
Okay, well, very good. Linda has a question. She asks if you should have different topics for the level 1 versus the level 2. Remember, you had your list of multiple topics.
That's a good question. My topics ranged, when I listed the 25 speaking engagements, they ranged in the 4 categories that I have on my website that you're showing up here now. What I did, my video, when I sent my video in, and Linda, that is such a great question. I sent the video in. That was, I want to make sure that that's just what they get when I speak professionally. So when I went to level 2, I used that content in the video. I wanted to make sure that it represented what I did in the professional world. So it's very, very similar. When I sent them the video, that's a direct connection to level 2. So I believe when you present at the level 2, it should be relatively similar to that video.
Certainly, you don't want to surprise them.
Well, but it's what they're looking for. They want to know what you're speaking about professionally. And I think, when you get up, because I've heard from other accredited speakers that they failed at that level because the judges did not think that was going to make a living speaking. So the second time the person went through, got the accredited speaker, and she made the decision, okay, this is what I do professionally. And she got the designation because she focused mainly on what she did professionally as a speaker.
You know, what you're saying is actually kind of interesting. It almost sounds like sometimes they're trying to game the system, in that, the idea is when you're doing speech competitions, the speeches that win at club and area levels are different than the speeches that win at division and district levels.
Well, and I have a different take on that. I think a speech contest, I always tell people, don't let a speech contest define who you are, because the speech contest is a different beast altogether. I think the speech contest is a self-evaluation. It is a learning experience. You learn about yourself as a speaker, delivering a good speech in 5 to 7 minutes to motivate an audience. That's phenomenal. And that, when you see a difference in a speech from club to area to division to district, it's telling me if it's the same speech, it means you're honing your skills. And the reason why the speech is so much better at district as it was at club is because you worked extremely hard to hone that skill to make that speech better.
Yeah, no, I understand exactly what you're saying about the developing your skills. I was thinking more along the lines of the specific types of speeches and types of topics, but that's okay. That's a completely different concept. It's the concept of what got you here won't get you there. That as you progress through the Toastmasters education program, right? CC will only get you so far. Once you've mastered all the CC skills, then there's another set of skills, the advanced communicator skills.
Yeah.
And as you master those, then you've got the professional speaker skills.
Yeah. And it's one of those things where it's really good to have a good mentor, a mentor that will lead you through I personally believe it's about the individual member of Toastmasters. When I joined Toastmasters, the first question that was asked of me in that first meeting, Joe, why are you here? What do you want to accomplish? And I told them I wanted to be an inspirational speaker. So somebody took me under her wings, and it was Shirley Kelly, the late Shirley Kelly, and she took me under her wings and she guided me towards that dream. The contest was part of the tools that I learned through that, and the contest basically gave me the quicker route to being a proficient speaker. And I think that's where the program takes you, and then the accredited speaker program takes you to another arena where you can sort of hone that skill even more. It's amazing, the process. The speech contest is an arena, like I said, for self-development. And I've heard so many wonderful speakers, former world champions, that basically say, if you want to speed your progress as a public speaker, as a communicator, go in the contest. It's nothing to do with the trophy. Nothing to do with the trophy. It's like Darren Lacroix said, if you want a trophy, go buy one. It's...
I got to tell you, what you're saying sounds like a perfect newsletter article. Hint, hint, hint. We have our spring contest season is coming around in a few months, and now's the time folks should start working on their speeches, writing them and practicing them. I'm just saying.
Well, it is. Yeah, it is. This is the time to start and come up with ideas. And I always tell speakers, if you're going to go into the contest, start early, because there's always this settling process for a speech. Because what you think is a good idea now, you have to allow that idea to settle and to change and to tweak, and you have to be comfortable with it. That settling process is so important. If you do it last minute, then the settling process doesn't happen, and I don't think the speech will be as good as it could be. Mm-hmm. So that's it. It's interesting to see the comparisons between the speech contest. I truly believe the involvement that I had in the speech contest and what I learned translated into the success I had in the accredited speaker program. So there is that connection.
Yeah, you'd hinted at this earlier. Did you join Toastmasters with the intention of being a professional speaker, or was it something more of that came along later?
No, it was my intention to be a professional speaker. I wanted to segue, after I retired from the education system, to segue into motivational speaking. I have to tell you, Jeff, this was an idea that came to me when I was honored to witness a phenomenal keynote speaker. She was from Chicago, and there were 6,000 teachers in this Coliseum. She was so good. She had me in tears. She had me going through the emotional roller coaster. She changed the way I worked with children. And if a speaker can do that, I walked out of that session. I came home, and the first words I said to my wife, I said, I want to be able to do that. I want to be able to do that. And my wife's joined Toastmasters. Mm-hmm. I had no idea what Toastmasters was all about. So when I walked through that door for the first time, that was my dream. That was my goal. And Toastmasters helped me make it become a reality.
Okay, so you came to Toastmasters with this idea that I want to become a professional speaker. And during that time, you obviously worked through the communication program and spent most of your time working on contests. I mean, is that a fair assessment? So honing your skill in contests. Yeah. Mm-hmm. How did the leadership track? Because you do have an advanced leader bronze, right? Right. How did the leadership track help? Did it help, or was it a distraction?
No, at first, when I joined Toastmasters, to be perfectly honest with you, I was focused more on the professional public speaking. That was my goal. There was an added surprise as I went through the leadership portion of the program. And the surprise was how leadership and communication are connected. The leadership taught me how to deal with a team that maybe have conflict. They taught me how to communicate in a way with diplomacy and to be able to, as much as possible, choose my words to allow the team to work together. That translated into the words that I choose when I speak professionally. I always think that a speaker should do everything possible not to offend someone. That's an impossible task because there's always going to be somebody in the audience that's going to disagree with what you're saying. But I think we shouldn't let the conflict, I think we should be open as a speaker. I think we should be open as a worldwide organization for inclusion, to be open to new ideas. And that's what the leadership track taught me, in the sense, and I was a leader in the education system, but the Toastmaster leadership program taught me how to choose my words in a way to lead people. And I think as a speaker, that's what you're trying to do also. We want to, I like to inspire an audience to think differently. I like to consider myself an inspirational speaker. And if you walk out of the audience, me leading you to a positive thought that you're going to change when you leave the auditorium or you leave the room, then I've done my job. And that's where the connection between the leadership and the communication happens.
Right. What you're describing to me sounds a lot like the difference between enthusiasm and motivation.
Yes.
Right. You can inspire folks. They're all gung-ho and excited. They're enthused. And they go home and forget all about it.
And that's where somebody asked me, it was Mark Hunter. And Mark Hunter, a former world champion, said, Joe, do you want to be a motivational speaker or an inspirational speaker? And I didn't know how to answer the question. I said, well, Mark, I think I'm a motivational speaker. What's the difference? He said, a motivational speaker are very good at giving you steps how to improve. And they give you instructions how to improve. And they're great people and they with great effect. An inspirational speaker gives the audience a different way of thinking. And it's really up to the audience to decide whether they want to accept your thoughts or not. Right. It's not me telling them this is what they have to do.
So, Joe, David asks, he has a good question about, or actually brings up a good point about the importance of mentoring. Suppose you wanted to find a mentor that could help with inspirational versus motivational versus other aspects. How would you go about finding that sort of person?
And that's a good question. And I always advise people to look outside your bubble. And I think we tend to get comfortable within our bubble, whether it's the club bubble or whether it's the area bubble, division bubble, district. The prime example, when I wanted to, my dream was to get to the World Championship Finals, I knew I had to expand my arena of people who were going to mentor me. Don't get me wrong, I had great mentors in District 45, but I thought it would be good to have another look at my speeches and my speaking ability and how I could better relate my message. So I would suggest to anyone to go outside of our district, and if it's a speech contest, and this is advice that was given to me, I can't take ownership for it, to contact 5 or 6 world champions and say, will you help me? And I was so surprised. There were some, yes, rightfully so, they were too busy. But I had help from 2 or 3 world champions that wrote me back and said, yes, I will help you. So if you're looking at, honing your skills, don't be afraid to go outside your bubble and look for it. Because if you don't ask, you never know what the answer is going to be. And there are a lot of generous people out there that are willing to mentor. And I think Toastmasters International fosters that idea of helping others and to allow others to shine. And this is why I want to give back and help out as many people as I possibly can within the organization.
Wow. Fantastic. Joe, you just brought up a thought. I've been to many, not a whole lot of district conferences, but I've been to several conferences and conventions. I've probably met 8 or 9 international, world champions of public speaking. I'm curious amongst our audience, who in our audience has met world champion of public speaking? How many of them have you met? And maybe is there one specific thing that you learned from them that you could type in our chat box? Let's see what we can learn from our audience, Joe.
I only have the phone access, no chat.
So Linda says 3 to 4. Smile and warmth. Ed, oh gosh, I should know his last name. Ed Tate.
Ed Tate.
Yep.
Yeah. And it's amazing. We meet these people, but we're so timid and asking the question, will you help me? And be very, will you help me? I'm preparing for, and I asked the question to, I remember a long time ago, I met Dave Brooks. And this was 12, 13 years ago. He came to Moncton, he did a workshop, and he had a gift for choosing the right words in his presentation. And I knew I needed, I think the first thing as a speaker, as a public speaker, what is it that you need help in? And then if you know, my area was choosing the right words. So I knew Dave Brooks would be a person that I would seek out to mentor. And it's amazing when I go to these conventions, how these world champions are open to that feedback and open to ask. Now, I have met some people that said they put feelers out to ask for help. Sometimes they will say, look, if you make it to the semifinals at the World Championships, let's talk. And then that's the bridge between you and the world champion. And you know, and sometimes Jim Key is a phenomenal person who, at 2 world championships, he came in and he talked to the finalists and he said, look, I'm here for you. If you need any help, please give me a call in my room and I'll come down. And he would give you as much time as you need. They are so giving when you do make contact with them.
Very good. So I guess from our members of the audience, do you have any questions for Joe that we have not covered?
I saw that Linda had a question there, and I'm just going to scroll up here.
She said
now Angela.
Oh, yeah. She had asked about Angela, and I'm not sure who Angela did, but she did something about the brain. Can you describe that?
Yeah, I'm trying.
She didn't really have a question. It's more of a comment.
Okay. And it's and I know Linda had a question here. I need someone to help me calm down. I think Linda has very positive energy. That's what I call it.
That's right. And why should she calm down?
Well, I think she hits on a valid point. I think now, you know, public speakers, when you go in the professional world, they want that conversational tone, and this is where I think Toastmasters is taking a very good direction. When I see the world champions now, it's more of a conversational. Linda's natural personality, Linda, I don't think you mind if I share this. You have a wonderful, positive personality, and it's very, very bubbly. And sometimes, if it's too bubbly, too energetic, it could break that connection you'll have with the audience and to focus more on the conversational end of the speech. And that's and this is something I can relate to because it's something that I needed to continually work on. I still work on it. And sometimes, and I'm very good about getting up on stage and, you know, performance. And I know you're not talking about acting, Linda, but I think it's just being able to tone it down to say, okay, just talk to me. Just talk to me. And I think that takes a lot of practice.
So, Joe, is that the kind of thing that folks can deliberately practice during contests or even during club speeches?
Yes. Oh, definitely. We did an exercise, and we learned this from, I forget who it was from, and Gwen, my wife, was part of the conversation. And it's an exercise where I would deliver a speech in front of Gwen, and she will stop me every time she feels I go over the top and I lose the connection. And I would have to say, the first time I did a 5 to 7 minute speech, she stopped me about 100 times. And I got to admit, I was a little bit frustrated.
Yeah, that's like 20 times per minute. Every other word.
I thought, oh my gosh, would you just let me get through it? But it was a wonderful exercise to do, to sit with somebody and say, I'm going to deliver this speech. and I want to work on it, be conversational, but I want to make sure I keep the connection with you. And she stopped me every time. And then it got down to a point that I just kept practicing with it. Do I still work on it? I have many faults in public speaking, and I continually work on that aspect, not to break that connection by going over the top. And I think that's what Linda was sort of alluding to. She has a lot of positive energy, but that's who she is. And I believe you want to keep that personality within your presentation, because that's who you are, whether you're on the stage or off the stage, because it's the same Linda. And that's what people genuinely want. When people see Linda speak, that's who she would be off the stage or on the stage. And that's a phenomenal gift to have. I don't want her to lose that, but at the same time too, if it does go over the top too much, we have to pull the reins on it a bit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, all right. Dave mentions that I guess before he met you, he never listened to anyone. I'm not exactly sure that that's what he is actually saying, but that's the way I'm taking it. He said he learned from you that he should listen to understand. So he started listening to understand. What does that mean to you, Joe? Listening to understand versus any other type of listening?
Well, but I think what he's alluding to is the fact that when you're focused on a speaker and you're listening, the audience has a job also. The audience has a job of being able to listen and have the listening skills to see what the speaker wants to deliver to you and to understand what the speaker is delivering to you. David is a great student of public speaking, and he's always working hard to improve. And that was one of the areas where, and I hope David doesn't mind me sharing, but it's one of the areas where he said, Joe, I need to work on that and work on that aspect of understanding, because he can speak 2 different languages, and French is his first language. So to listen to a speech in English, he had to hone his skill, his listening skills, understand the speaker, and then translate into, if I'm going to speak, I have to speak so people can easily understand me.
Ah, very good. That does make quite a bit of sense.
Yeah.
Okay, any other questions for Joe? Surely there are other questions.
I have one, if I can speak.
Go ahead, Mark.
In the level for the accredited speaker, you talked about having to get 15 paid speaking engagements from level 1. If this is a market that is better compensated through sponsorship of an event, whereby the venue and audience are actually not paying, but a sponsor does pay for you to present that, would that still qualify as a paid event?
Can you repeat that, Jeff?
Yeah, we were losing you, Mark. I think he's asking some specific detail.
No, I'll say it loud. I can say
No,
it
Mark,
loud.
it's he was asking specifically about whether you're being paid by an individual or an institution or a third party as a sponsor. Or how does Toastmasters care about that? How you're getting paid, or what are the rules, or where could he look up more details on those specifics?
Well, the one thing, and under my understanding, is that the speaking engagement has to be a paid speaking engagement where you're paid to actually speak. Now, if a sponsor is paying you to speak, then yes, that would count as a paid speaking engagement if the sponsor is involved.
That's my question.
Yes, it would be counted as a paid speaking engagement.
Okay.
Thank you.
But if your brother-in-law pays you to stay overnight at his house and to give a toast during his party, that probably doesn't count.
I know Mark's integrity. I know Mark's integrity. He wouldn't do that.
Okay.
No.
I know. I'm just saying. But your brother-in-law sponsored you, but no. Okay, yeah. So yeah, there's definitely some integrity there, but I think the distinction there is what you said is you're being paid to speak as a speaker. So
yeah.
For example, like corporate sponsorship, of an event in front of college students.
Okay, and my understanding is the corporate sponsorship is paying you to speak?
Right. Yes.
Yeah, so that would be a paid speaking engagement.
Right.
Congratulations,
Thank you.
Mark. You have one check in the box.
Well, the other thing with the application process, to make sure your audience is over 20 people. I
Oh,
know that I've
Right.
had this, yeah, I've had discussions. Somebody said, well, I got paid and I presented in front of 10 people. That wouldn't count as one of those paid speaking engagements. So
okay.
just
So
be aware.
on the accredited speaker page, there must be some rules about that. Is it? Yeah, eligibility.
Well,
Here's a rules document.
yeah. Yeah, and they
So
have all they have the criteria there and everything for who is eligible, how the program works, all of those things. And it's what I like about it is Toastmasters made it's short and concise and it's understandable. And it really shows you in Toastmasters, I have to tell you the emails that went back and forth between Toastmasters International, they're very timely in responses if you have any questions. And I had some questions and they came back very timely to answer them. So if there's something above and beyond this that you have a question about, one of the questions that I had for the video, because on the form, it says for the video, it has to be between 20 and 40, 45 minutes, I believe. And it has how much you were paid to do that. It had a $sign. And I went and contacted my mentor. And I would suggest anybody that's applying for the accredited speaker to reach out to a mentor with the accredited speaker so they can mentor you through the process. I asked my mentor, does this video have to be a paid speaking engagement? And the answer that came back to me is, no, it didn't. Even though there was a slot there for how much you were paid for that speaking engagement, the video doesn't have to be a paid speaking engagement. So I said, great, because the video I was going to use was not a paid speaking engagement.
okay, well, very good. I'm going to paste, for those of you who have signed in online, I'm going to paste the rules. AS application rules and the judging.
Yeah.
So those links should be in your chat feed if you've got it. Oh yeah, it looks like Linda also posted them. Maybe she did because mine don't seem to be going through. There we go.
And I do agree. I do agree with Linda's comment that Wendy Harding is a mentor, and she is phenomenal about her speaking. Less quiet, but she does command a room. You're absolutely right. She's a good example of that natural ability to have a conversation one-on-one with an audience. So it's, you know, depending on what you're working on, it will depend on who you want as a mentor.
Well, all right. Thank you, everyone, for attending, and thank you, Joe. I'm also going to include a link for a survey. So if you want to get official credit for attending this webinar, click on this link that's showing up in your chat box. The survey link, it'll bring you to a quick Google document, a Google form. Just type in Joe as your instructor and tell us a little bit about the content. Provide your email if you want to get credit for it. If you don't want credit, don't worry. We'll just know who you were. If you don't have access, you can find the link on our District 45 webinar schedule. Again, it's an online Google document, and I've been posting it periodically. You should be able to find links to it through our district Facebook page and through various emails that I've sent out. So Joe, folks are thanking you, and you are thanking all of us. Thank you, everyone, for attending this District 45 training event on the Accredited Speaker Program.
It was a total pleasure, and thank you very much, Jeff, for doing this.
No problem. Thank you, Joe.